And a very good afternoon to you from the sports desk. Let's start here. The 2025 BAL playoffs are now officially underway. Now, this playoffs serve as the post-season tournament of the 2025 BAL season, which determines the champions of the 5th Basketball Africa League season. They will begin today, the 6th of June 2025, with the seeding games and finishing on the 14th of June 2025, with the final and will be held in the SunBet Arena in Pretoria, South Africa. But unfortunately, without the South African side, MBB. But it's not all doom and gloom for those that will be attending, as it promises to be a great spectacle of African basketball and entertainment. Now, joining us to speak more on this is Shongwe, a basketball aficionado.
So we move from connoisseur to aficionado.
That sounds a little bit better.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Sbu, for coming through to speak to us. I mean, let's get into it. And I think let's start with exactly what I'm mentioning.
Yeah.
MBB, the absence of MBB, what does this mean for South African fans?
Man, I was disappointed in that because the MBB is a South African team coached by Sam Vincent, the legendary Sam Vincent. And you look at how they played in the Nile Conference in Rwanda, a record of 2-4 in 6 games. So they didn't qualify to go to the playoffs in Pretoria, SunBet Arena, which is disappointing for the South African fans. But as you said earlier, not all is lost. We do have a South African player representing South Africa with Petro de Luanda or Samgelo Cele, who's one of the best players in the country, one of the best two-way players in the country as well. So he's going to be playing for the defending champs, Petro de Luanda from Angola. So you will be able to see a South African name at least as you cheer on, or as you're watching on TV.
Let's take it a few steps back and talk about the season starting today, the playoffs.
Yeah.
Who plays and what's the big idea behind these playoffs that started today in Pretoria?
So as we take it back a little bit, just for context, especially for our viewers, you think about conference play, right?
Yeah.
So it started in Rabat in Morocco, where you had 28,000 people attend the BAL games, 4 teams there. And then it went to Dakar, Senegal. It went to Rwanda, in Kigali, and now we're in South Africa for the playoffs. So the top 8 teams from all of those 3 conferences are then the ones that compete right now. We have Al Ahly Tripoli from Libya, who is the number 1 ranked team right now in the BAL. You've got Al Ittihad from Egypt as well. They're neighbors who are also 6-0. Both teams are undefeated. In fact, they're playing at 7 p.m. tonight, so look out for that game as well. But you think about some of the other teams that are representing, teams from Rwanda, APR, teams from Morocco, FUS de Rabat as well. So many countries represented. And you think about the landscape of basketball, you want to see the best of the best in terms of Africa. And those are some of the teams that you can look forward to. I did speak a little bit about Petro de Luanda from Angola. Samgelo Cele is in there. They are the defending champions. So you think about, are they going to be able to repeat that championship pedigree? Kwena, you know sports, you've been in this game forever. Something about winning changes you as a player, changes you as a team as well. So looked for Petro de Luanda to make some noise in this one.
The absence of MBB in terms of being a spectator sport, you spoke about the number of people that we've seen in the previous conferences.
Yes.
What does this say? How are the fans responding to this? Are we still seeing fans coming through in their numbers to come and watch these playoffs? Because these are big teams in their own respect.
Yeah. It's funny that I keep mentioning Cele. He was one of the best players last season. He was playing for Cape Town Tigers, a team that did fairly well within the BAL.
They were very popular, the Tigers.
Exactly. In fact, they went to the playoffs in Rwanda and lost there. But they had started a system, a structure, a fan base, if you will. And something like that, when it's lost, it's very catastrophic for fans, right? So the fans are looking at, who do we then support now? Why do we go to Pretoria? We don't know some of these teams. And that's my job, to let you know who these teams are. But I can tell you now the competition is going to be intense. You think about even from an entertainment perspective, Casper Jovest is performing at halftime today. We've got Zing Malo, we've got Maglera Doughboy. And generally, if you look at the BAL product, if you've ever watched an NBA game or saw a clip or saw some highlights, the NBA does a really good job, and the BAL, to take that product and to mimic it within the BAL space as well. So entertainment, action, galore.
Let's talk the seedings. Al Ahly Tripoli are ranked number 1.
Yes.
Petro de Luanda coming in as the champions. How does the seeding work and in terms of determining the playoffs and who gets to play who?
So as I said, Morocco in Rabat started off there in the Kalahari Conference. So the top 2 teams, might be actually 3 teams now with FUS de Rabat from Morocco actually having qualified. But you go to Dakar, top 2 teams as well. You go to the Nile Conference in Rwanda as well, top 2 or top 3 teams there. So all of those teams then make up the top 8 that are now competing in the playoffs here in South Africa and obviously the finals. You think about which teams can we support and which teams can we kind of get behind. I think as you watch the playoffs, as you attend the games, as you go to the fan zone, you're able to get the entire basketball experience. And you know, if you're looking to Libya, if you're looking to North Africa, there's guys who are called the Rivers Hoopers as well.
Yeah.
From Nigeria with Kelvin Amayo and Rafael Apadni, players that have played in the BAL before that are household names. So again, not all is lost. I think it's going to be a very exciting playoffs and finals.
You know, we can't help but when you talk about BAL, talk about the NBA.
Yes.
And many saying that is this a pathway to NBA? Are we likely going to see some players coming out of the BAL progressing to the NBA?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I'm glad you asked it because as we speak, there's players who are in college basketball at the highest level in terms of NCAA. You speak about a guy like Kaman Maluach, who comes from South Sudan. He plays for Duke University, was in the Final Four this year. There's another kid, came from the NBA Academy Africa, in actual fact, Ruben Chinyelu, who played at Florida, won a national championship this year. Both kids did play in the BAL before. NBA Academy Africa, BAL, and now they're entering the NBA draft. So yes, you speak about a pathway. I'd say it's a direct pathway to the NBA. But over and above that, I think it just creates an ecosystem, creates a community, a fan base of sorts as well within the continent. You think about South Africa as well, we don't have a league that goes on 5, 6, 7 months to prepare players for the BAL and maybe competition even beyond the African continent. But the BAL offers you that opportunity. So I think it's a win-win all around.
Could that be the problem that South Africa faces, Sbu, in that we don't have that league when you have basketball in many countries and particularly in the continent, getting that kind of exposure?
The problem is you didn't take up basketball very seriously. I knew you played a little bit or you tried to play, and we're playing in the celebrity game tomorrow, and you're not there.
Sbu, this is not about me, but I can tell you this. I played provincial basketball.
I know that. That's what I'm saying.
For the University of the North, as you were.
And I can tell you now, not many people know that. I know that. So I'm very disappointed that you didn't take up the sport and go far. But look, at the end of the day, you know, the BAL is something very, very exciting. And whether or not it's a pathway, whether you look at it as not maybe a means to an end, but at the end of the day, players get the opportunity to come through and do what they do best here. And I think it's important to look at it that way.
Have we seen that growth in the sport since the BAL? And I mean, primarily in the continent. I mean, if you go to like Nigeria, Morocco, North Africa, the sport is quite big, but we're seeing it expanding in different areas. Are we seeing the BAL enhancing the sport itself in terms of how it's played, when it's played, but also as a spectator sport?
Yeah, we are. We definitely are, because there, you know, the fans, the community is engaged in basketball. It's one of the biggest sports there. To your question that you asked me before this, South Africa, unfortunately, doesn't have those. You think about the BNL. We have the BNL, but as far as competition year-round, that's not really there, right? So that's the first thing that we probably need to fix on both the men and the women's side. We're seeing schools come to the fore now. I was doing a tournament with St. Stephen's College not so long ago as well. Great turnout, so many different schools, so many different colleges. I think you start there. South Africa has that problem in terms of fundamentals and on the ground and grassroots and so on. But NBA Africa is definitely doing their part. I mean, they've pledged to build 1,000 courts on the continent in the next 10 years. So if that doesn't speak to investment and commitment to the game, and not just commitment to the game, but commitment to young boys and girls, you know, as far as sports is concerned, as far as their self-development is concerned as well.
Very briefly, Sbu, the game started today, the playoffs started today.
Yes,
the finals are when, and what can fans expect throughout the day up until the last day of the playoffs? Yeah,
so we have a couple of games today. So Creole Star plays for Rabat, who are from Morocco, very exciting team. And then you've got other games as well later on. As I said, the battle of the undefeated Al Ahly Tripoli and, of course, Al Ittihad as well. And tomorrow we see Samuel Oktele and Beto de Luanda in action. And then we see APR and the Rivers Hoopers as well go into action. So that's going to, after the playoffs have happened, the seeding is going to then happen where certain teams advance to the semi-finals and the finals. So that happens throughout the course of next week. But look out for Beto de Luanda, look out for Al Ahly, Al Ittihad, Rivers Hoopers as well. If you're Nigerian, the Niger boys are coming through with that heat as well. And there's many other teams from Rwanda. We had a team from Kenya for the first time in the BAL, the Nairobi City Thunder. Unfortunately, just like MBB, They disappointed us a
They
little bit
disappointed.
there, but representation, I think, is also important.
Fantastic.
On the
Sbu Shongwe, thank you so much for coming through to speak to us today. Sbu Shongwe, who is a basketball analyst, aficionado, connoisseur, whatever it is that you want to talk about it, talking to us about the BAL. Well, we're going to park it in here for now as far as sport is concerned. We do, though, have another update come your way in the next hour.